Very good morning to everybody here. Welcome to this webinar on Yoga Teacher Training Program. We did one last week. Some of you were there as well. I'm glad you took time to attend this one as well. Some of you may be attending for the first time. Most welcome to this maybe about an hour's time that we'll spend on knowing what a Yoga TTC is, Yoga Teachers Training Program, who should do it, why you do it, and how do you go about enrolling for a course, and what does it take to complete a course, and all kinds of details is to get it you start. Aruna, welcome. Best if all of you mute. I'll try and mute from my side, but it'll be best for you guys to mute. Aradhana, Kuldeep is also here. Welcome all of you. Okay, as usual, a quick slide presentation, just for you to capture some of the information. But most importantly, soon after the slides, we'll open up for question and answers. And that's where you could ask some personalized questions as to how this course or this time that you will take out for the course will be beneficial for you. Just checking if you guys can see my screen. I'm sharing the screen. Not yet, I guess.
I know this guy. He used to do classes for us in Genesis. It's such a way, this one, chain of.
Okay, you guys can see Shwasa logo. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Nicole,
Yeah.
welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, one more quick request. All of you,
Nice
mute yourself and we can get started.
webinar.
For yoga.
Yoga training, teacher training.
Okay, we have somebody who has the mic on. I think that's Shipra. Can you check your mic?
Sorry, I'm on mute. It's not me.
Okay. Oh, sorry then. Running. Not able to locate her. Let's get started. The webinar on Yoga Teachers Training course, and we'll be spending about 40 minutes to go through the slides and then open up for question and answers. I'm Pradeep Sathamaya, and I started out yoga being curious about the practice quite young, my last years of college, and then took it quite seriously. And my formal introduction has been through an MSc in yoga. And I did something called the Applied Yogic Sciences, which actually proved to be very useful, need of the hour, simply because yoga was not meant for health as it was practiced, in our 5,000-year-old history of yoga. But only recently it started out to be very popular for health, as a preventive health practice, and also to some extent curative, therapeutic as well. And so it simply means that the yoga practice had to be applied or adapted to the present need, for health need for that matter. And most of us, if I ask most of you here, why did you come to yoga, or what do you expect from yoga? I'm sure most of you would say health is one of your biggest objectives for yoga. And so that application part, the study, the 2 years I spent in Munger, Bihar School of Yoga, helped me relate to what is happening in the preventive health segment and how yoga could be adapted to preventive health. Of course, Ayurveda is a must, and so I started studying Ayurveda as well soon after my MSc. Ever since been regular with my Ayurvedic study, And that has helped me quite a bit as well in terms of health and yoga, application of health, and what can complement yoga. Been teaching for over 23 years, and very early on when we started to teach, it was not so organized. So when we had to grow, we needed some qualified teachers, and we didn't have qualified teachers. So my first reason to start off training other people to become teachers, what is called now the yoga teachers training, was largely to make sure that there are qualified teachers as we grew as an organization, and many people teach yoga wherever it was required. That's how it started. But interestingly, very soon, maybe 3-4 years into certifying people, there were a lot of people coming into these courses not because they wanted to teach. There were quite a few who were very clear, I want to teach yoga and I think it's very useful for me and for people around. But there's quite a few people who came in for their own self-improvement, to understand their own self and figure out certain practices that will keep them going in whatever career they have been following. And so that year was also something interesting to see that yoga could be used by almost anybody in their own life, in their own way, tailor-making it to their own needs. And so that's why these courses over the years have become popular, and I've also invested quite a bit of time in teaching others not just become teachers, but also use it for deeper in.
That's tomorrow.
Okay, quick.
Yeah, hi, I can help you over here. I can see it's Mansi Parekh and Aarti Gupta. Can you please keep yourself on mute?
Yeah, Mansi, is it?
Yeah, Mansi Parekh and Aarti Gupta.
Aarti Gupta, please mute yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shukra.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. So I'm going to be sharing my over 23 years of practicing teaching experience, certification experience here in this webinar. And I like to share why a lot of people have taken up yoga in spite of being busy in their own field and excelling in their own field of work and career. But yoga has been a very good inclusion in their be it self-improvement or be it or understanding their own self or just health, just to take care of their own health. Quick slide on agenda. We'll talk about what is yoga teachers training program, what does it entail, what are the professional standards around. Now that it's so popular and a lot of people practice, they would need to bring in standards into teaching yoga or training teachers. So that's what I'll talk about. And we'll see what are the top 5 benefits of doing a yoga teacher training program. And maybe one of that might appeal to you, or you could ask questions. If you have a slightly different agenda for the course, you're most welcome to ask questions. I'll be sharing how the course itself will run, what is the breakdown of the course, and how much time you will have to invest, how much effort you will have to put in to complete this program. We'll be opening up for question and answers at the end. You're most welcome to write down some questions you might have while I go through the slides. We'll definitely answer them towards the end. So what is a yoga teacher training program? Simply called YTTC, or in some places it's also called TTC. Well, this is a course that qualifies as formal education in yoga. We might have done some yoga practice at school. Largely, it is looked at as a practice, physically doing something, and that too restricted to just asanas. But we don't get introduced to what is yoga, the history, or the purpose behind yoga, and what are the steps of the practice of yoga. Where does asana come into in the yogic practice? Where does meditation come into? Where is those breath practices that we talk about as yoga practices come? And what are the purpose of these different practices? So we don't generally get educated we either join a class or doing 1 hour yoga classes, and then we probably do a little bit of advanced practice like a workshop and more of asanas. But very rarely you'll find, courses or interaction with teachers where you go deeper into the practice. So this is a very good formal education in yoga and the first step. And obviously this being the first step, it has to start from the very scratch. The definition of yoga and the classification of it and the practices it involves and principles behind it, the psychology behind it, the philosophy behind it, the anatomy and physiology behind it. So it goes on, all those will be covered should be covered in any formal education fundamental course. And so this course will have all those details. So like I said, principles and practices of yoga. Now, every practice is built on a principle. Like I said, right, we know the practice. I know how the yoga class begins and what are the different asana practices, different classifications, and maybe I also know about the breath practices and some meditation. But what is the principle it's based on? Why does somebody has to do these practices in a particular order, in a particular pace, in a particular approach? What is the principle? What is it doing to the body? What is it doing to the physiology? And what is it doing to the mind? There has to be a principle. And mind you, this principle, we talked about the principle that yoga practice is based on, is not just for the physical body, but for life itself. The philosophy questions, what is the origin of life? What's the purpose of life? And what is that we need to do as we, live our life on this earth? And so it's not just answering that one question of, okay, you need to do this, this, and this with your body, and this is what you will get. Well, that's part of it, that's just answering the bigger question of what is the purpose of life? Where did we come from? Where are we going? And what is that we need to do while we are living our life on this earth? It gives you some clarity on, say, what kind of time and effort you want to spend on a chosen activity. Be it work, be it family, be it entertainment, or be it studies, it gives you some perspective, I would say, a yogic perspective. And if you're already practicing yoga, a course like this would give you some solid foundation and structure to progress. And more importantly, if you have to go long, it has to be tailor-made to one's need. Yoga is not a practice that is seen as a group practice. There's one set of practices that works for everybody. No, it doesn't. It is a very individualized practice. Each one of us here are very different, and each one of us will have to practice yoga quite differently in terms of intensity, in terms of practices, in terms of sequence, in terms of frequency. Almost everything about yoga is going to change based on who's practicing it. So a course like this is a good opportunity to completely tailor-make it to your individual needs. In a group class, we do what is best for the group itself and not necessarily for each one of them individually. Well, most of it are common, some overlapping objectives, but then when it comes to a long-term practice, you need to get to the point where you are creating a tailor-made, be it your injuries, be it your strengths, be it your limitations, putting all of those together. And then your objective and your ability to learn, your ability to practice daily, discipline that you have, and all those put together, it has to be tailored. So that's something that you will do during this program. Benefits and application of yoga. We know that, okay, yoga is good for health, but what exact practices are good for health, and what are the limitations? Because yoga is a preventive health practice, or at least it's used as a preventive health practice. So obviously there are certain limitations to practices. And what are yoga's limitations? And what can yoga help in? And what is that for what conditions do we have to take help from other complementary sciences like be it Ayurveda or modern medicine, surgery. And so we need to know where the limits of a daily preventive yoga practice lies, and also this could help us in sharing the practice with others as well. People having different needs around us. Maybe as a parent, you might share something with your kids. As a husband, as a wife, sharing it with a spouse, or as a team in your business, in your office, as a team leader or as a member of the team, you would like to share something to your group. And so this course will help you really identify what practices, what is the principle behind it, and where can this be applied. Obviously, this is a yoga teachers training program, and so one of the biggest objective this will cover is that it will help someone do all the four things mentioned above, and the fifth one being teaching. Probably in a professional setup, you have to teach a group or one-on-one. It'll help understand and train yourself to hone the skills to teach. For some of us, it's very natural to teach. But for most of us, we'll have to learn a few tricks, train ourselves, and then we'll be able to teach effectively. So this is a teaching program as well. You will spend quite a bit of time in learning how to teach. What are the standards we have in yoga? Yoga for health and yoga as a mass practice has been around only for about 100 years now. 1920s is when it started to become quite serious health practice and practiced as a group. And so in this 100 years, it's still very early for it to become a part of a mainstream medical intervention, or for that matter, mainstream education. So people do it out of interest mostly. It's still the case, and maybe slowly it's changing. But since it's always been voluntary and the people doing it out of interest, professional standards have been put in place only of late, recently. And some of the standards that you could follow in India is the standard set up by the government of India, Ministry of Ayush. That has a set standard for certifying teachers and schools who teach yoga. And so that's a very proper governmental certification program. Yoga Alliance USA is not for-profit, non-governmental organization. It was set up by a bunch of yoga teachers in the US who felt the need that there's no such standard and we need to set something up if we have to, make this mainstream. If more people have to benefit from this, we need to set some standards for the teachers, for their education, and also professionally, what are the things you will do as a yoga teacher? What are the limits? What are the ethics you will follow? So to set all of that up, it's a voluntary organization, I could say, Yoga Alliance USA. And that standard, they have set some minimum standard for teachers and schools. And in the absence of any other standard, people just follow the Yoga Alliance USA standard, a pretty good standard recognized across the world. So you will see these two as very working, very much, I would say, a practical model have been built by these two organizations. It's been working really well, and it's only going to grow. It's only going to make sure the practice is going to be so much more safer, especially when practiced en masse. The Ayush Ministry has 7 levels, so you'll have exam for all of them. You'll have to teach, you'll have to sit up for a written exam, practice exam, and so all kinds. So it's the proper certification where you will have to present yourself and then clear the exams, and then you'll be certified. On the other hand, Yoga Alliance would give that, the requirement of the course is all dealt by the schools, which are registered under Yoga Alliance, and the students who pass out from such schools become eligible to register under Yoga Alliance, and they are voluntarily following up of these ethics and standards set up by the Yoga Alliance. So it's not so much of a certification. So I want you to focus on those two words. One is a certification program, the other one is a registry program. Voluntary, both are, nobody is forcing anybody. So if you teaching yoga, you have to have this. And so which is why I said it's pretty early, and it's still at that phase where there's awareness being built, and we're trying to include people come into this standard. And at some point in the future, it will be mandatory like any other professional job, like a medical doctor or an architect. You will have to have these things. As of now, it's not, but good to have this, because you are keeping yourself safe and you are keeping everybody who comes to you safe. Why do a yoga TTC? Some of you might have already thought about this. Why should I do a course? Can I have a quick word from you guys? You can either comment or maybe just unmute and talk. Nicole, yes, you said it's a similar one that we did last week. So, anybody thought about what, why you want to do this program? Anything at all? Just one word is also fine. You want to comment or you want to just talk? Not really, I guess.
Yeah, maybe I can jump in.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I want to do this to go deeper into the practice and to understand myself better.
Sure. I think that's a clear objective, to deepen your practice and understand better. So probably that's what I put down as well as the first reason. Why do a yoga TTC? There could be many, but I'm going to focus on the most important ones, and that might be something that you're...
Yeah, it's the same thing for me also. It's like same idea for me. It's the Sandhya.
Sandhya, sure,
Yeah.
Sandhya. Similar idea. So you want to go deeper, and which means you're practicing yoga, something is already working for you, and you see the potential that this practice and this principle and this philosophy can help you go further, right? Go further, knowing about yourself, and knowing is the first step in bringing about a change, if there is need for change, or to nurture what already is working really well. So yeah, fantastic. Anybody else? Any other?
Hi, Madhu here.
Madhu, go ahead.
So first thing, I am attending to understand how this is going to be helpful for me to get more clarity. Second, see, I get some I'm getting injured somewhere then and there. So I'm trying to understand whether this can help to understand more better so that I can do in a better way.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid concern a long-term yoga practitioner has, Madhu. A lot of teachers have trained a lot of people as well, not just teachers. And I know that injury has, kind of been one of the biggest obstacles in their journey to progress. It pulls you back. You'll have to stop. You'll have to nurse your injury, get better, and then start. And then, if it happens more often, then your motivation, your interest also kind of is fading because of the injuries. So injury prevention, especially because you plan to do this for the rest of your life. Just imagine as you get older and there will be other health, natural changes that happens in the body, and we'll have to tackle all of that. So understanding what is going wrong. Is it just my body type, or is it the kind of practice I'm doing? Is it too intense for my body? Or am I doing the wrong sequence? Or am I doing the wrong alignment of the body? Am I missing something? These are very valid questions for anybody practicing yoga and who intend to practice for long. They need to figure this out. Injuries have been a problem for so many of the yoga teachers and so many of the students practicing yoga, yogis, and most of them have realized the importance of the right practice, preventing injury, and in most cases also accommodating injuries, to continue in their practice is a very important part of yoga practice itself. So I can relate to that.
Aradhana here. Nandini, Naina, and Olga have also shared their reasons on chat. Nandini says spread good health while keeping good health.
Okay.
Naina says found yoga as the most profound way of maintaining a healthy life.
Healthy life. Okay.
And Olga says that share with others the benefit of a healthy lifestyle.
Super, super. Thank you, Naina, Olga, Nandini, for your comments. I think that's probably a few things that I've also covered. So I'll just take a minute to talk about this. So tailor make, let me talk about that tailor making the practice, because it's a lifelong practice. And like I said, we go through a lot of physiological, psychological changes in our life. And so yoga practice, yoga has to adapt. It cannot be what we practiced 5 years ago. We cannot continue to maybe have the same intensity of practice or same frequency or the same asana. We might have to change because our bodies are changing, our needs are changing. We will have to change. So tailor making is a very important reason why you should do this YTDC. Because in a group class, there's only so much we could do, and which is good in itself to maintain good health. But if you have to do it for life, then it has to be tailor-made. And third one I put out is to thrive in chosen career in life. And so it's not only that yoga for, I'm going to improve my health, and in my practice, I'm going to grow and advance. But the yoga practice, the lessons we learn there, the training we get there, body, mind training, and the way we handle challenges in a yoga class through the practice, and the philosophy that comes with it, and the understanding and the reflection of those philosophy in a meditation, goes a long way in handling a lot of real life situation outside the mat as well, be it our family life, be it at work, be it any other interaction we have in the outside world. All of them kind of have a similar challenges, right? And so a lot of the skills that we pick up practicing yoga for a long duration will be wonderful tool to have when we have to face and handle situations in real life. So you're going to, I would say, have had people talk about how yoga has helped them thrive, get better at what they're doing, be it a business that they're running, or working different fields, or as a parent, just as a person. I'm better as a person. So that's probably one of the reasons why someone should do a yoga team. And like many of you, Olga also mentioned, sharing with family and friends. Yes, that's very obvious. When something works for us as an individual, the first thing that I want to do is share it with others. I mean, at least the first thing is I'll talk about it. I'll say, hey, I had these issues, and then I overcome those doing these practices. And the next thing that we would do is, if someone going through a similar kind of a situation, we would jump and say, I want to help you. I think I know, something that might help you. And so that's very normal for humans to share, and no different here. Yoga, people who practice yoga, in some way or the other, we share it with other people. We may not be professionally teaching yoga, but, be it a philosophy, be it an approach that we've learned in yoga, be it a breath practice, a simple attitude, a shift in attitude, not necessarily an asana that we're going to teach people, but we might, pick up these other aspects, and we might have a conversation, a casual conversation, but this is top of mind for most of us, and we would share that with others. And this is what you might have already been doing with your yoga practice. You might say you should join yoga. You may not be teaching them, but you would recommend, say, you should do yoga. You should find a good teacher, or I have a good teacher, whatever. I'm sure most of you I've been doing this already. So Yoga TTC is a good way of understanding this better and sharing with people around us. Lifestyle change, important one, not just one aspect of your life, not just that physical health, my joints are getting better, my back is better. That's very important, but one aspect of our life, right? But I want to be better at relationships. I want to be better with time. I want to be better in handling challenging situations that are, inevitable. We cannot run away from those challenges. So it becomes a lifestyle itself that making it a lifestyle would be one of the reasons why someone should do a yoga TTC. And life goal, and making it a lifestyle, obviously, you're going to base it on a life goal. This is what I want to achieve. So to suit this, I need to have this kind of a lifestyle. So the goal itself is going to become much more clearer. You're going to question everything. You're going to ask, is this really what I want to do? Now, we are all so influenced by what happens around us. And subconsciously, we all believe that because it's happening so often and I hear that so often around me, it has to be right. And, by default, I also want to do that. Not necessarily. Simply because everybody else around me is doing this, it feels that that's the right thing to do. And you would probably want to do the same thing. But it may not be the right thing based on your body type and your abilities, your strength, and your objective in life, your goal in life. So understanding a little bit about and mostly questioning about the purpose of life is going to be a part of this course as well. So we will touch upon that very important part, because everything else we do in life is based on this one, right? The very philosophy that we believe in, subscribe to, and say, this is what life has to be, and this is what I need to do as my roles and responsibilities, or this is how I live in life. So those are a few I put out. There could be other reasons why people have taken up yoga and a yoga teachers training program. But this might be most of our. Okay, should we quickly go to the course details? First requirement as part of this standard we talked about, that there has to be a certain level, certain system of education, and a certain part of it should be allotted for studying and practicing a certain aspect of yoga. And out of these standards, the first one we saw was the 200 hours of education. That's a very common one across. Ayush Ministry recommends 250 hours though, but it's okay. I mean, it's somewhere close by. And then that's a standard first step of formal education you will find in yoga. 200 hours that you need to spend with the teacher in various different aspects of yoga. And most important one is the practice part of it. Some of you are already doing practice. Nevertheless, this course will have about a requirement of about 120 hours of practice, daily practice. And so that's the first part. And then we have the weekend special YTTC sessions. That happens from, every Saturday, Sunday, starting next weekend. And it'll be mornings for you guys. And so taking about 2.5, 3 hours in the morning on Saturday, and same thing on Sunday for the next 2 months. That is 16 sessions in total. That's where we will get deeper into why we are doing what we are doing. We'll understand almost everything that I talked about: philosophy, anatomy, physiology, health, Ayurveda, Yoga Sutras, and then also for learning about teaching and application of yoga. Almost every detail we'll cover in that 50 hours over the weekend. There we won't be doing practice, so we've already done some practice. We would talk about it. We'll have a kind of a workshop format to learning about, say, a certain alignment of asanas or certain techniques of practice of meditation or pranayama. So we'll go through those on the weekend. So very important to attend and complete those 50 hours. And assessment, obviously, is a standardized course. So we will have some assessment, but it's not so much like just a written assessment, but it'll cover everything from your attendance, your participation in those weekend classes, assignments, and group work, individual assignments and group assignments. And then, of course, a couple of written assignments and written tests are there. That is a part of the assessment. There'll be one midway and then one at the end of the 2-month period. Apprenticeship is again important. We encourage everybody to take this up in spite of you maybe not having a goal to teach yoga. Take it up because the concepts, the ideas, the information, the knowledge becomes much more clearer when we have to, present it. I'll have to refine my thought. I'll have to figure out if I'm making sense in a certain order. I need to do my research, study. So teaching is a very good way of learning. And if you ask any yoga teacher, they'll say that we've learned a lot teaching yoga as well. Because you cannot cram a lot of information in a short period. But it's only over a period of time that this information starts to become relevant, and maybe you start to realize these principles in real life. So apprenticeship for 20 hours and a total of 200 hours is what we need to complete as part of the program. All these 120 hours, 50 hours, they will happen on the weekends, and the weekdays is when you do your daily practice. But we looked at this and said that, okay, let's have some flexibility in doing this program, because we are already busy with our life. We have family, we have work, we have other responsibilities. And how do I make time for a course like this? I have assessment, I will have some exams I have to study for as part of the course. And how do I make time for this? It's a big question, and probably one of the reasons why many don't take it up. And maybe they're looking for a right time. Maybe they're looking for that 1 month off where I can go off to India or find an ashram and spend time, immerse myself. Well, that is pretty good. I would say you can find that time. But at the end of the day, yoga is something that you need to include as part of your regular life, not something that you retreat and experience somewhere else. But this is something that I need to do every single day in my home amidst all the challenges I'm facing. And so it makes sense that, if you start including this practice as part of your day already, even while doing the course, it'll be fantastic. It'll be effortless for you to continue this practice rather than making a lot of effort to try and bring it into your daily life. So flexibility is one thing we were very clear about when we started planning for the course, and we said, okay, that 120 hours of daily practice, you could complete it over a period of 6 months to 9 months. Sometimes we'll have to take a break. Sometimes we have other challenges that are probably priority over this, or other part of life that I need to attend to immediately. Sometimes it's injury. I have to stop and then I have to continue. So there is that time, 120 hours, meaning if you do about 20 hours every month, you'll have a good 6 months to complete regular practice. Someone who's doing it every single month, 5 days a week. On the other hand, you have up to 9 months if there is something, travel and work and other things that comes up. So there is a little bit of leeway for you to complete it in 9 months. Weekend classes, those 50 hours are also like this. They are all very clearly titled. Every single day, 16 days, day 1 to day 16 are very clearly titled as in that topic. Those subtopics will happen on those days. So if you happen to miss a certain weekend, you clearly know what you've missed. You know what are the topic I need to catch up, and that will happen in the coming months, right? So this is 16 classes, and soon after that, another set of 16 classes. These classes will be repeated. Day 1, day 2, day 3 to day 16. And so you miss some of the theory or you miss some of the classes. Maybe you cannot attend the whole of that weekend's class. Maybe out of those 3 hours, you were able to attend only 90 minutes. And then you can make that up because there's a very clear title given to each day, and you know what you've missed, and you can make up in the coming class. On the other hand, even if you attend classes, all those 16 classes without a miss, you know, these topics, this philosophy, these principles need revisiting, reflecting. And every time you come back to this, every time you listen or a different person talks about the same topic, there might be new insights into it. There might be a different perspective to it. There might be, you know, clarity, maybe the second time, third time, fourth time you visit the topic. So it's not like, you know, 16 classes, 50 hours, I'm done. Actually, yoga teachers will tell you, or yoga practitioners will tell you that they've been studying yoga for a long time. I've gone through it once, twice, thrice, 6 times, 10 times. Same with other, you know, very important principles like the Gita. If you've been studying the Gita, you know that, okay, I've heard of all those different yogas that's talked about in the Gita. I've heard of once, twice, and then I keep revisiting. I get new insights every time I go back. And with life experience, those principles, those philosophies make sense only after a certain aspect of my life experience. Only when I realize that, only when I acknowledge that, only when I go through that part of life experience, I'm able to relate, I'm able to connect, I'm able to make sense of that particular shloka or that principle. Same with yoga. It's it will require multiple visits and contemplate on it or reflect upon it, meditate upon it before we get the idea, or before we can have enough idea to utilize it in our life. So that's the flexibility part of it. You're most welcome to attend 2 batches. You know, we have 9 months time. So the weekend classes you can attend multiple times. What is the certification pathway? One is sign up, and as soon as you sign up, you can start off your practice, and that's the 120 hours. And those weekend classes are scheduled, and so that each as and when it's scheduled. I mean, there is classes every weekend, but a different topic. So you'll have to book, just like you book your classes on a regular day. You know, you book your pranayama class, you book your weight loss class. Similarly, you will have all of these TTC classes. And for, I mean, it would be pre-booked. Maybe if you have to change it, you will know, okay, on that particular weekend, I'm going to change, I'm not going to attend that day, so I'll change it to a different day. Or you know that that's a topic I'm pending, I just have to complete it. So the moment you sign up, you can start off. There's no start date or end date to the course, simply because it's our own personal journey. And we're trying to make it flexible, and that simply means that you have more, you know, I mean, no reason for you to wait for the next batch, and I'll start only in the next. If it makes sense to you, you should start now. What do you do once you start doing your weekdays? You do your practice from the existing classes that you book, and or certain classes that you qualify. And if you're a beginner, also the beginner classes, you're already intermediate, some intermediate classes will account for that 120 hours. And then that weekend, you know, you practice from Monday to Friday, but that weekend we'll catch up. We'll do a kind of a summary of what we practice. We'll document it. We'll understand why we did what we did, and the details about every practice that we did. Some of the practices, because every practice may not be possible, but some practice every weekend, we take it up and go deeper into each of those practices. Understand benefits, contraindications, understand its physiology, anatomy, and understand its progression, modification, and all kinds of things. And when you're ready, you take up the assessment, and there's post-course requirement as well. One is during the course, and there is the post-course requirement. Once you enroll, you'll get details of everything that you need to complete. And so it's quite interesting because, you know, when we did our college education or school education, it was kind of, we were doing something because we had to do. We had no choice. But here we are, we are choosing this, and it's about me. It's about my body. It's about my mind. It's about why I do what I do. It's about improvement. And so this kind of assessment is actually a very interesting one that you look forward to it. And I want to check how much I've progressed. I want to check what I understand about myself. And so this assessment is something that you might look forward to and finish it and want to know the outcome as well. Okay, that's the registration that we have with Yoga Alliance USA, and which means once you complete your program, you will have a certificate that will qualify you at the 200-hour level. So that RYS 200, Registered Yoga School 200. That's the school certificate. But when you get it, you will be Registered Yoga Teacher 200 level. And this is our registration with Yoga Alliance. And this is pretty good for anywhere in the world, even in India. Even though Ayush Ministry is the authority here in India, but Yoga Alliance is a pretty accepted standard across the world. Simply by virtue of being the older of the two standards, Yoga Alliance is a well accepted one. Europe, Australia, Middle East, India, East Asia, anywhere you go, South America. And this is the certificate you will get once you complete, and it will carry that RYS 200 logo on it, which means that you're certifying at that level. And this is a certification because you will go through assessment. You will go through the course, you will attend, you will interact, you will complete requirements, and you will have an assessment, which is why this is a certification from the school. And this certification is what you will need to get yourself registered under Yoga. And then it's very straightforward. Anybody can look up on your certification and say, okay, this person has gone through all these requirements, education, and so I'm so much more comfortable taking up classes with such a person. Who should do Yoga TTC? I think we've covered this quite a bit, but maybe a quick look at these slides as well. You've been practicing yoga for years and you want to advance now. Group classes can only take you so far, and also maybe your needs might be very different from that group. So advancement and maybe starting to practice on your own are all very normal on this path. You cannot keep doing group classes all the time, even though many people do and they enjoy. Because there's a group energy and there's a teacher who's there. At some point, this has to advance, and it has to be according to your strengths and challenges. And so a course like this, for someone who's already been practicing, can also take this course up. And for someone who's not been practicing, very new to yoga, in a way, it also is a very good first step for you to take with the right fundamentals, with what is the principles of yoga, the clarity on the whole journey itself when you start out. And so for someone who's new, never done yoga, and for that matter, even never done any physical activity, this is a good one, because we start to understand what the body is about and how we start to engage the body in movement, in the activities that we want to engage the body in, and also to control the body. How do we kind of put this body in a stable, comfortable position? How do we make this body to quieten down? How do we make this mind to quieten down? So obviously, these are things that anybody, even without any experience, should start out looking for. And so this one is for people who've never practiced yoga or never had any physical activity. Healthcare professionals, maybe you already are a healthcare professional, you are nurse, you're a doctor, you're into Ayurveda, you're a chiropractor, you're a parent teaching PE, or you're teaching some, let's say, group exercises, or you're a personal trainer in a health club. all of these people, it's a fantastic way to complement. You started on that journey, and of course, it becomes so much more important for you as a continuing education. Look at yogic approach, yogic principles, and yogic practices that you could either complement, or you might even start teaching this more than others. Or you could find a nice way to blend the two together and see which one works. So it's also for them. Care for others around us, family, friends, parents especially, and spouses and friends, and any kind of self-improvement, not just one aspect of ourselves, but any kind, be it how we use our bodies, be it how we use our mind, and be it how we are navigating through this life. If you need improvement, it starts with knowing yourself, knowing what you can do or what you cannot do, and knowing how to do it. So yoga can do all this. All right. So if you're looking at starting off, we are starting a course. The classes start off next weekend. And tomorrow we have an orientation for people who've already registered for the program. So this is our first program. And so we are quite excited to get this started tomorrow. And if you have any questions today after this webinar, and if you can get that clarified and you want to start off tomorrow, we'll be thrilled to have you in the orientation. And next weekend, next Saturday, we'll be catching up around the same time. We'll be catching up. We'll start a little early, but we'll be catching up for that weekend session. We'll talk more, get deeper, and get to interact a little more as well. For now, if you have any further questions, I'll open up question and answers here. But otherwise, you can also contact Aradhana. Her email ID is given out here. So send her an email, maybe in the evening, think over it. And if you want to send it out in the evening, tomorrow, Sunday, most welcome. But we're having an orientation for all of them who've already registered as to how to go about, this course tomorrow. They'll get their manuals, books, and other things. There's no rush, but I'm saying if you're clear in your mind, you have a fantastic group already waiting. And so that group, the pure energy is actually very useful. And I know people who made friends for life from such yoga courses. They attend courses together and they're friends for life. Simply because we all, when you say yoga and when we're looking at yoga, we are attracted to yoga and the practice and the way we think in yoga. We may not find too many people doing this in our real life, in our interactions. When you find such people or like-minded, there are high chances that we make friends for life. All right, that's about it for today's webinar.
So, quick question. Hi, Madhu.
Madhu, go
So,
ahead.
you told that for 120 hours, we need to do it in the regular session. So the other sessions are mostly the theoretical. So how you, so the 120 is a group classes. So the corrections may not be individualized or tailor-made. How you correct it, correct the poses and other things.
Got it. So you're asking how it will be tailor-made, right? Is that your question?
Yes, for the practice, not for the theoretical. Theoretical, I understood.
Sure. One is, see, all the teachers that we have, most of them are qualified at a certain level. They have masters in yoga. They've been teaching for 5 years, 10 years. And so there's a certain qualification all the weekday teachers already have. And they'll identify anybody registered in the course, they already know, and you will stay back after the class. Only reason you may not stay back or the teacher may not be available is they might have back-to-back classes. But otherwise, every class, they'll ask you to stay back and you will be given a manual, and you will have to document a few of the practices you did in that class. And what happens on the weekend, the first thing that we do Saturday morning when we meet up is something called as the asana lab. It's kind of a lab work. So we come down, what are the practice we did during the week? How much have I already documented? How many questions are there in my head? I don't understand this alignment. And so the first part of that weekend class is dedicated to knowing these practices from scratch. Okay, this was how we started. This is where the spine should be. This is how you should move with this breath coordination. This you should avoid. This condition, you should not be doing the practice. You should modify it this way if you have this kind of a condition. Or if you're a beginner, you will do this version and then you'll do this version. So you'll go through all this exercise for 50 of the classical asanas that are in your manual. 50, they are the most used and most fundamental. And once you cover these 50, right, every other asana is actually very easy from there because you understand the approach, you understand the anatomy, physiology behind it, and the approach behind it. So every weekend, Saturday, Sunday, first thing that we'll do is we'll get the manuals out, we'll roll the mat out, and we are trying to understand what we did. And is this the right thing to do? Hold on, I have a question. Can I show you this? And this is what I did, and I felt the pain here. And so what should I do? You know, each one of them will have to document every one of these 50 asanas. And similarly, we have breath practices, yoga nidra, and meditation practice also you will document through those 16 weekends that we'll be. So every weekend, first thing that we do is just this.
Okay. So does these sessions recorded, the weekend sessions?
Absolutely, absolutely. All the sessions, even a weekday session for that matter. Weekend sessions are definitely recorded.
I'm talking about the this YTTC programs also recorded.
Yes,
because
yes,
it's
absolutely. All the classes are in the weekday are anywhere recorded is what I'm saying. Weekend classes are also recorded, just like we do every other class. And it will be available to you on your dashboard. As soon as the class is done, Saturday's class is done, it will appear on your dashboard very soon, and then you can start to revisit, listen to it one more time, watch it one more time. You could do, and it will be with you for some time. That's why the time of 6 to 9 months, we don't want to rush into it. I mean, I have done this too in the past. Short courses. It might work for some, complete immersion, but in that short period, people cannot absorb so much information and experience it. Forget about, just getting information is tough. Just imagine, how do I embody all this information? How do I really live this practice and experience? That needs time. So you will have all the recordings available to you on your dashboard very soon. As soon as the class finishes, all individual, that asana lab is a separate one, the theory class is a separate one, teaching, your yoga nidra practice. Every topic that we do with the title of the topic is recorded and it will be available to you.
Okay,
Pradeep, this 120 hours requirement, so for a regular practitioner who have been doing it for quite some time now, is that requirement already met, or this will start from the day we enroll?
No, like I said, it will start now. I think, what happens is, who's speaking? Sorry, I couldn't make out.
This is Atul.
Atul, sorry. Atul, what will happen is, you're doing the practice, but once you attend the weekend class, you have a certain backing of the principle and the approach, and then you go back to doing the practice. The experience is very different. The understanding is very different. So your 120 hours will start now, along with those weekend classes, and you're documenting, and your teacher is going to help you document then and there. That day's practice, a few of the practice, they'll pick it up. End of the class, you will be asked to stay back quickly. You don't take too much time. You won't keep you holding. But now we're starting to document everything, the journey that we are going through. Whereas you must have already practiced X number of hours or years of practice. That's fantastic. That's a good foundation that you already have. Maybe your learning curve will be shorter if you already have that practice.
Got it. So you're only going to count the weekend classes for this certification, or it's the practice that we are doing on weekday?
No, practice as well. Both have to be counted.
Oh, okay.
So we will maintain a record of it. You don't have to bother about that. You just keep doing your practice, certain classes, and the yoga teacher will know that you are signed up for the course, and they will interact with you. They might give you information as well in the classroom itself, or after the class, they'll give you information. And every weekend, Saturday, Sunday, there is a summary of that week. What did we do? What classes did you attend? These are the things that was done in class. And we will go through all those practice, some of those at least, very deeply, understand, classify, and qualify them as to when we do, how we should do, and all of
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
that. Any other questions? Let me check. How do we just Olga is not here, I guess, but
Pradeep, sorry, one more question. Sorry.
yeah, go. Yeah, you go ahead.
So in the weekend session, I understand that it's going to be mostly focused on practicing and then trying to understand the, probably this science behind that and all. But let's say we are practicing one specific sequence and all, and I have like out of course questions like, okay, I am doing it, but how I'm going to improve my self-discipline? Do you, those kind of a question will also be answered?
Yes. See, if you look at what yoga as a practice, right? What does it contain? It is talking about, okay, this is the objective that we're trying to reach, and these are the practices that you need to do. And that is a small part of the yoga philosophy, because they understand that as an individual, I'll have a lot of obstacles. So they talk about what are the obstacles a seeker encounters on their journey. Physical obstacles, mental obstacles, and combine that with Ayurveda, it gives you a fantastic overview of what is happening, why is this happening, why is my mind distracted, what should I do? Is it because of the food I'm eating? Is it because of the interactions I have with a certain group of people? These are all addressed in both yoga and Ayurveda. And this is an important part. Otherwise, you're blindly trying to work without having much to show. The outcome is not very efficient. So there's a lot of these checks that we'll do along the way. And only then we know that, okay, now I'm going to put in effort and now I see the outcome. So surely we will address the obstacle part of it, both physical, mental obstacles, emotional. Those are part of it.
Sorry, thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody?
So so last week you spoke about food sense management, and so you mean to say that will be also covered in
Yes,
this?
very much part of the course. So just to give you, because you asked the question, I'm going to just connect it to philosophy. See, yoga is a practice. We know it as a practice, but it's based on a certain philosophy, and that philosophy is called Sankhya. And Sankhya talks about the mind and how what are the different factors of the mind, what are the challenges we face, handle the mind. So it is quite important for us to know about mind. So you could call this Eastern psychology. Western, we may not touch upon Western psychology because this course, we don't have time for that. But definitely yoga is about mind, and it will cover the structure of the mind, the concept of the mind in the first place, and then the classification and the idea of the mind and the practices for the mind. In fact, everything that we do will be for the mind ultimately. And also, like you mentioned, sense organs are a very important part, and there are specific practices for the sense organs. Very much. So we will be covering this in detail in a Sankhya class in the course. Yes. Food is a big part. Ayurveda brings in a rich knowledge of food, and that goes really well with the yoga practice. So you'll understand about food, diet, nutrition, and especially tailor-made to you individually. So we'll do some quick exercises on understanding our body types, and then tailor-making the practice. Which is why in one of the slides I mentioned tailor-making, not just food, lifestyle as well. and the practice, of course.
So this one more, this not an important question. So in the Yoga Alliance, you showed a certification, right? So that we need to register every year.
Yeah,
We need to
it's a yearly registration, so you'll have to pay a small fee for them and then get it registered. But just that if you're teaching, then it'll be, I would strongly recommend that you do that, because people will cross-check, okay, he's saying he's certified, where do I go and find out if he's authentically certified? So if you're teaching very seriously, I would say, yes, it's worth it. But otherwise, it's more for your own growth, your own personal development. You're teaching only your family and friends, then you may not have to.
So for that 200 hours every year, we need to attend and register. It's just for understanding purpose.
Yeah. So one is,
You don't have
as
any
soon as you
plan
finish
to-
the course, you get your certificate, you use that certificate to get registered. You pay a fee and you get registered Yoga. And then to maintain it every year, you'll have to do a certain bit of continuous education. And then every year you pay a fee again, and then you get it extended for 1 more year. So every year you keep extending. And some
Pradeep,
continuing
just to
education.
clarify,
Yeah.
just to clarify, I think Madhu was checking, do you have to complete 200 hours of training every year to, you
No.
don't, right?
Now, continuous education is much less. Once you finish the 200 hours, then year on year, you will have to do somewhere around 8-10 hours of education. So it's very small requirement, which you usually would, complete if you attend a workshop or if you attend, some webinar that qualify as continuous education. Or you're doing your self-study, you're doing a course on first aid, that will also qualify. So there are very little requirements on a year-on-year basis. But 200 hours is what you spend initially, and then about 8 to 10 hours every year to maintain 200 hours. But on the other hand, if you want to graduate or you want to go to the next level of the program, there's the 300-hour course. For that, obviously, you'll have to attend 300 hours of education. That's in addition, it's 200 and 300 would be the level 2 program. And so that becomes a 500 hours of education. So only in that case, you'll do those 300 hours. Otherwise, just to maintain your 200 hours registration, you don't have to do 200 every year. No.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else has any questions? You are most welcome.
Pradeep, I do have one question. You said tomorrow we have orientation, right? In case if somebody misses or if somebody takes time to think about it, there will be another orientation session or this is the...
Absolutely. Anybody who enrolls will first go through the orientation and then they start their program.
Sure.
They said
Yeah.
it is a group, there's already who've enrolled, they're all as a group will have the orientation. But for some reason you want to take a little more time and then come back, you will have an orientation before you start off.
Oh, sounds good. Yeah, thank you. And I think most of my other questions are covered, yeah.
Sure.
So thank you for that too. Yeah.
All right. There are no questions, or if you have questions, if you think of something later on, please write to Aradhana, or if you have my details or on the app, you might find me and then you can send me a question. No issue.
Thanks, Pradeep. I just wanted to mention that between me, Nikita, and Dhruva, we will be reaching out to everyone who's attended. So we will be discussing all the pricing info, all the subscription related information over a call. So in case you want us to reach out at a specific time, please let us know. Otherwise, we'll just try and reach out right after the webinar as well.
So there's Nikita, there's Dhruva, there you could raise your hand, and there's Aradhana you've been talking, so you can talk to them or they'll reach out.